여러분은 석탄 발전에 대해서 얼마나 알고 계세요? 석탄 발전은 산업혁명의 문을 열고 굉장히 빠른 속도로 인류의 주된 에너지원이 되었습니다. 하지만 인류가 이렇게 석탄 에너지를 통해 풍요를 누린 대가로 우리는 지금 극심한 기후 변화를 맞이하고 있습니다. 폭우와 폭염, 가뭄과 산불 등 현재 인류의 역량으로는 제대로 대응할 수 없는 다양한 기후 재난을 마주하고 있습니다. 이러한 기후 변화의 원인으로 지금껏 우리가 누려온 석탄 발전이 그 주범으로 지목되고 있는데요. 지난 2023년 한 해 동안 인류가 배출한 이산화탄소의 양은 약 374억 톤이라고 합니다. 말하자면 이제 석탄은 풍요의 상징이 아니라 인류를 파멸로 몰고 가는 재앙의 상징이 되었습니다. 전 세계 국가들은 이러한 기후 변화로 인한 파국을 막기 위해 다양한 노력을 기울이고 있습니다. 대표적으로 내년 2월까지 각국의 자발적인 온실가스 감축 목표인 NDC를 새롭게 유엔에 제출해야 합니다. 기존의 2030년까지의 목표하는 탄소 감축량에 이어서 2035년까지의 새로운 감축 목표를 제시하는 것이 그 과제입니다. 그렇다면 과연 세계의 각 나라들은 2035 NDC에 우리가 석탄 중독으로부터 벗어날 수 있는 목표를 담을 수 있을까요? 여러 나라의 사정이 다르겠지만 혹시 그 가운데 우리가 참고할 만한 좋은 사례는 없을까요? 안녕하세요. 저는 장혜영입니다. 독일 대사관과 기후솔루션의 초청으로 이 자리에 나와 있습니다. 빠른 속도로 탈석탄 사회로 전환하고 있는 독일의 이야기를 경청하려고 합니다. 주한 독일 대사님과 독일의 에너지 전문가를 모시고 지금부터 여러분과 함께 그 이야기를 청해 듣도록 하겠습니다.
My name is Georg Schmidt. I'm the German ambassador to South Korea. I arrived actually last year in August, so it's almost a year that I'm here. And when I came here, of course, you ask yourself, what do you want to achieve as an ambassador? And there are many topics that we have to cover: politics, security, economic. But one thing that is near and dear to my heart is also the whole issue of ecological transformation, environment, and climate action.
So in South Korea, when we think about Germany, what comes to mind? Transitioning to renewable energy the fastest. And also, Germany is one of the leading countries addressing climate crisis on a global level. I and our audiences are interested in when did Germany begin to take the climate crisis so seriously, and why?
If you look at it, actually, if you go a bit back in the history, it started very, very early. The Germans somehow feel very attached to their nature, to their natural habitat, but also to attach to the balance between ecology and economy. Take, for instance, the term sustainability. In German, we call it Nachhaltigkeit. It's a term that comes actually from forestry, and it was coined by German foresters several hundred years ago, who realized that you can only cut as many trees as you can regrow. So here's the basic concept of sustainability. So there's a long-standing intellectual tradition of natural protection. What came in much later is then the aspect of climate change. And in 1998, for the first time, we had a government with the Green Party also involved, but it was not only the Green Party, it's a long change. And we also went through all the discussions about ecology versus economy. As an economist myself, it is difficult and yet not difficult, because in economics you also have the principle of the polluter pays.
Right.
If you pollute something, you pay for the damage. So it's a question of prices. If the prices reflect the actual damage or the costs of a product for society, then suddenly you don't have ecology versus economy. You're emitting greenhouse gases, and at the same time you're making money, but you need money to fix the problem that they're creating. So we call it in economic terms the externalities. If we try to do the calculations in a way that we include these externalities, we go forward. And this is what happened in the early movement to protect the environment.
And I would like to ask you, what specific measures Germany has implemented to achieve those goals for transitioning to renewable energies and reducing greenhouse gases?
Yes, we want to decarbonize, but we are also a highly industrialized country. And how do we get there? We created a coal commission in Germany to discuss how to actually go forward with that. And that was not easy because coal for many regions in Germany was the main employer. It was emotionally very important. It was at the source also of pride for many people who worked on coal for generations. So we needed to set this up and say, like, how do we take along industry people and the scientists to say, look, let's get out of coal step by step by step, specify the costs, and it's a very detailed plan. So for every step that you actually say you want to phase out coal, you need to give people an alternative, and the alternative must be something that people feel comfortable with. It involved a lot of time talking to the citizens and trying to convince them and making them stakeholders in that process. So if you look at it, there are three major coal areas in West Germany and also in East Germany. In West Germany, it's the Ruhrgebiet, and there you can see the transition in full swing. It started early and then followed later on the transition also in two areas in former East Germany. The idea was to change a landscape and to offer alternatives. For instance, in Saxony-Anhalt, even goes as far as that where you used to have coal mines, you have lakes now, so you go into recreational activities and others. So it's a complete overhaul of the landscape, and it's the hugest, I would say, the largest challenge we're facing. It's a green transition. It's like an industrial revolution.
Actually, Korea also supposed to phase out coal, but we don't have any legal or concrete roadmap to phase out coal. So maybe German case could be a very good references for us. Okay, so listening to you, I get more and more curious about the core commission or core exit commission. So my colleagues have invited an expert who can explain more about core exit commission in detail. So let's go and meet her.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Edel Günther. I'm the director of UNU Flores, an institute of United Nations University based in Dresden, Germany, that focuses on integrated environmental resources management.
So could you please explain what the core exit committee is in Germany and how it has been working?
So it's quite interesting that it's called Coal Exit Committee. Exit sometimes has a negative connotations. If you look into the documents, Commission for Growth, Structural Change and Employment. So all three very positive terms, and that is the idea that we do not only phase out coal power, but that we do this in a deliberate manner, takes care of the people who live in the region. And what was important for this so-called coal exit committee, that it's not a decision top-down that is then implemented with decisions from parliaments, with decisions from mayors, from ministers, but that it's really a democratic process. And that also meant that this committee was compiled of politicians, of business people, included civil society. And the idea was really to include everyone, all stakeholders, to reach consensus of the transition from the outset. They had in total 9 meetings from June 2018. That was when the committee was established, to January 2019. So only half a year. And this is really a speedy process in politics. And then they presented their final report to the federal government in February 2019. But then finally, these recommendations were the basis for the so-called Coal Phase Out Act in 2020. The core points of this law were that Germany would really close all coal power plants by 2038, and that the government would provide financial support to coal power plant workers who lost their jobs or who will lose their jobs due to this transition. This also then legally solidified Germany's commitment to phasing out coal.
It's very impressive that committee addresses various economic issues and especially work democratically with different stakeholders to achieve a kind of social consensus. Now I understand that Germany's will to exit coal has been building over time and continues today. However, in reality, the transitioning away from coal can create energy gap. So my question is that how did Germany plan to overcome this?
There is now a Renewable Energy Sources Act in German called Erneuerbare Energiengesetz that was set in place after several revisions. This has already been initiated in the year 2000. So this is already something that started quite a while ago, and then it was slowly then built up. We also realized that we highly depend on fuel imports from Russia, other fuel exporting countries. We had geopolitical conflicts like the war between Russia and Ukraine. Germany also realized the vulnerable energy security, and that again strengthened this idea of make Germany resilient. An important point during the discussion was indeed how to address the potential energy gap, also having in mind political instability. This law included also targets for the share of renewable energy. It does mean that we need to support the creation, the investment and consumption of renewable energy in order to make it also tangible. They decided to have targets. And so, for example, according to the 2016 revision, the goal was to increase the share of renewable energy to 60% by 2035. Then the government said this is still insufficient. The federal government legally codified the target of an 80% share of renewable energy by 2030 by revising this Renewable Energy Sources Act again in July 2022. And if we look into the year 2023, already 56% of the electricity produced in Germany was based on renewable energy. First, there was a lot of skepticism and doubt. Do we then depend too much on other countries? How will this happen? Will we have a blackout? But you can see if you start a process, if you have a clear goal, you can then also move in this direction.
On good days, we already produce more than 50% of our electricity by renewables, which was thought of as like, this is a pipe dream. You cannot do that as an industrialized country. But we managed to do it. It's tough, but we're in the middle of a huge transformation.
Wow. As far as I know, Germany has committed to close all the coal power plants by 2038. How could Germany set those ambitious goals?
The ambition is there. The problem is, if you look at the figures, how many years we still have before we reach tipping points. I think the climate scientists and many of the activists also would us to go even faster, because they say we're not doing enough, we're not fast enough, we're reaching a tipping point just at least to have 1.5 degrees. So the guidelines and the target lines are a measure of compromise between what our scientists tell us and what is politically feasible and what can be done. If we can be quicker, even the better.
오늘 이렇게 주한 독일 대사님 그리고 유엔대학교의 에델군터 교수님을 모시고 독일의 탈석탄에 대한 이야기를 들어보았습니다. 이야기를 들으면서 느끼게 되는 점은 독일의 이런 적극적이고 일관된 탈석탄의 노력이 하루아침에 이루어진 것이 아니라 짧게는 2016년부터 그리고 길게는 1998년에 처음으로 녹색당이 독일의 연정에 참여하게 되는 순간까지 거슬러가는 길고 또 굉장히 끈기 있는 정치적이고 사회적인 노력이 있었다는 것을 알게 된 점입니다. 지금 우리가 사용하고 있는 전력의 약 50% 이상은 여전히 석탄이나 가스 등 화석 연료에 기반하고 있습니다. 지금 가동되고 있는 석탄 발전소만 해도 무려 61기에 달하고 최근에는 강원도 삼척에 새로운 석탄 발전소가 들어서기도 했습니다. 그러는 반면 재생에너지의 비율은 겨우 10%도 되지 않습니다. 무엇보다 우려스러운 점은 독일처럼 탈석탄의 시점을 명확하게 규정한 탈석탄의 근거법이 현재 우리에게 존재하지 않는다는 점입니다. 독일의 사례에서 배울 수 있는 가장 중요한 점 중에 하나는 적극적이고 일관된 기후 대응을 위해서는 정부나 기업 혹은 국회뿐만 아니라 각계각층의 시민사회와 시민들의 적극적인 참여가 중요한 원동력이 될 수 있다는 점일 것 같습니다. 세상의 맥락을 엄청난 속도로 바꾸고 있는 이 기후위기 앞에 우리가 뒤늦은 후회를 하고 싶지 않다면 지금까지의 낡고 관성적인 기후 대응을 벗어나서 더욱 과감한 전환을 촉구하는 담대한 용기를 내야 할 시점이 아닌가 싶습니다. 지금까지 시청해주셔서 감사합니다. 저는 장혜영이었습니다.